Welcome to our stream. We're going to be doing these Thursday night streams every week for about a half hour. I think every week as much as we can. And the intent of the stream is really we're going to talk about builds or strategies or farming routes, different things like that for the more average gamer. So the person who isn't able to farm gear 8 hours a day, who might not exactly know what they're looking for. Try and simplify some of the things because obviously this is an extremely complicated game. And, it definitely rewards those people who spend a lot of time playing it. But I think you can still put together a really viable build in this game, even just, with the random parts you pick up during the little bit of time you play, especially if you know what you're looking for. So tonight, just to introduce ourselves, my real name's Jared, but my gamer tag's Burt Reynolds. Everybody calls me Burt. And this is my co-host tonight, or actually the guy who came up with the idea, Negan Killjoy.
You don't get my real name. My real name stays super secret. It's like CIA shit.
It is. I didn't really. I apologize, Negan. I didn't mean to break the fourth wall there. I never
damn
said
you,
anything.
man. Damn you. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm out.
But Negan and I have been gaming together for a long time. We're both Division 1 veterans, Destiny 2 veterans together. And we both belong to the DZPD, which is a Discord group. If you are looking for a good Discord, the DZPD is a good, solid group of people that are very willing to help people out. And so that's really where we met. And yeah, I don't know, what has it been like? It's almost 3 years, right? It's been a long time.
It's been a while. We've punished ourselves with all those games at some level. So yeah, I know it's been a while. Don't forget Ghost Recon, Wildlands as well.
Ghost Recon Wildlands. Yeah, I'm excited for the new Ghost Recon as well.
Yes.
So tonight we're gonna kick off and take a look at, what are you looking for in terms of gear? I've got a build I put together for tonight. We're gonna show you both, what it is, and then how to put it together, and then we'll show you a little bit of play testing with it, show you some time in the range with it. So with that, I'm going to dive right in. Again, what I've experienced is that if you really want to put a great build together, you're probably going to have to spend an absorbent amount of time. Just thinking about kind of some of the meta builds, I've been trying for weeks to put together sort of the clutch, high vital health clutch build meta that everyone talks about. Oh, thanks, Negan, for throwing that up there. That's great. But I've had no success with that, right? I've got like the vital chest piece, but it doesn't have health roll on it, and I've got the backpack, but it doesn't have vital on it, or I've got the piece with vital, but it doesn't have any health. Those kind of things, when you see these streamers put together these builds, they're spending a ton of time farming that gear in order to get it, and then, they're farming a bunch of other gear to optimize that gear. So for those of us who don't have that kind of time, I've put a build together like this. This is all just random pieces I picked up, basically running world chest farm routes, right? So maybe a few of them I don't think any of this stuff came out of the DZ. That is a good source of gear. We do go in there every once in a while. But it's a pretty simple build. There's no exact rhyme or reason to this build, so it's not like 3 pieces of wyvern or anything like that, but I'm going to explain each piece in the set. So for this particular build,
Putting this together, what's the first thing you decided to do? Do you base it on the weapons? Do you base it on the chest piece? Or what do you do when you decided on this particular build? How'd you start off with it?
Yeah, that's an awesome question, Egan. So in this particular case, I knew, for example, that I really wanted to be able to run, in this case, an SMG and an assault rifle. Because I've got some other LMG builds, I've got a rifleman build, and I wanted to run an SMG build. So I guess it kind of was around the gun, or the gun class.
Why SMG?
And just because I didn't have a build with SMGs in it. and I wanted
Fair
to see
enough.
how it would, work out. Yeah. Um, and so in this particular case, I have a bunch of different SMGs. Let's show you what obviously I have Chatterbox. I have, this converted SMG9. This is actually my favorite, an AUG A3. That's my favorite of all of them. You will notice something about my guns. The vast majority of them have Allegro on them. Allegro is a very good stat to look for, especially on something like an SMG or assault rifle, because it literally, gives you about a third more DPS if you're looking for just quick burst damage. So, have a bunch of different SMG options that I've farmed. I only keep guns. I use there's a division builder spreadsheet. I should know the official name of it. Some really cool people put it together. I use the max damage rolls um, section of that spreadsheet for guns, and then just, when I go into my stats and I look at them, I figure out, how much additional damage I'm picking up from my build, and then do some multiplication and figure out how good my damage rolls are. I don't keep anything that's not a 90 plus roll, and then I'm always looking for Allegro. And you'll notice another weird trait of mine, and this is just I think it's a bizarre thing, but I tend to play at range, and so I put Ranger on a lot of my guns. People are probably going to call me an idiot for putting it on an SMG, but what I've actually found there, I either run Strained or I run Ranger. I like Ranger on SMGs for the fact that close and personal seems to be currently bugged. Otherwise, I might run that.
So,
Um, but also, go ahead.
why is it bugged? Just out of curiosity. And
Yeah, so
also,
it's
why do you use
something.
Ranger more?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, um, I had close and personal on several of the guns, would get the kill inside of 7 meters, which, by the way, is exceptionally close. And only about 50% of the time would the icon come up, and only about half of the time that the icon came up did my damage numbers change. It's been reported as a bug. If you look on Discord, or not Discord, Reddit, you'll see people complaining about it. Don't know why. Not sure what's going on. They haven't really acknowledged it yet. It's been that way since TU3 dropped. So it worked before, it doesn't work now. So I've rolled it off of a couple guns. I've kept some in my stash so I can roll it back if it comes back. But why I favor Ranger is because the SMGs have terrible damage drop off. And the way Ranger works is you get damage back for the further you are away from something. So it actually compensates for a lot of that damage loss. And so this gun is my other favorite. And I like it, and I like the AUG because they feel more like assault rifles. So it's almost like running two assault rifles without having to share the ammo between two assault rifles. So that's the reasoning there.
And
Yeah,
ammo
weird,
is
right?
a big problem with SMGs. They chew through ammo really, really
Ammo,
rapidly.
you do. Ammo's a
So,
big problem in general. I would say
um,
outside of missions, the ammo thing is a big problem. Like in the open world, I'm constantly running out of ammo. Um,
because you shoot too
Taking
much. We talked about
CPs.
this. You're
I
shooting too
We
much.
did. We did. I shoot a
Yes.
lot, don't I?
Some
Yeah,
some of us have no problem with ammos because we're not shooting, but you're shooting too much. So,
I shoot a lot. Yeah. Yeah, so I started with the gun. So the gun, because I knew I was going to run an SMG, that led me to the choice here to run a Sokolov piece for the additional SMG damage. You can see there, SMG damage is its primary trait if you have one piece of it. You're always going to be looking for a mask that has a red attribute that you can roll damage to elites onto it. That was the only reasoning behind this particular Sokolov piece. I got it. It had two blues and a red. The blues aren't even good, but it had hard hitting on it. It had a pretty garbage armor roll, actually, and so if I find one with a better armor roll, I will definitely replace it. I just have not gotten another one with this particular configuration with a better armor roll. So, that's basically that. And you can see then I rolled 41% damage to elites onto it. Why am I doing that? Because that's a huge damage boost. So you think about endgame content, I don't think there's any single damage boost bigger than that damage to elites roll that you can put on your mask. So 41% is a ton. So that's basically what you're looking for in a mask.
The wild is what? 44%? Is that the highest DTE we've seen in the wild?
That's the highest we've seen.
So,
I know it can
yeah.
roll up to 55%, I believe, on the green gear. I've never seen it. I mean, I've seen it in YouTube videos. I've never seen it in person in real life. 40,
Right.
44 is the highest I've seen. Yeah.
Which also
Yes.
nice to remember, just because you can, some people say it can get up to 55. Looking around and actually in the real world stuff, you're probably more commonly going to find high-end 40s, 44s. Like I said, that's all we've ever seen.
Correct.
So don't get too down
Yeah,
if you're only finding 35, 40s out there. It's still usable.
and 35 is a great roll. I mean, you'll see if I were to go through several of my other masks, that one's 41, but that one's 35, 38, 35, 35, 33, 35. I mean, like basically anything above 33 I keep. And I'll throw it in my stash for later stat rolls. Because, I mean, let's be honest, it's a very valuable thing. Anything below 33 I probably would chuck. Then it led me to the fact that I was going to run an SMG led me to the fact that I would probably want Berserk as my damage talent on my chest. You really have two options for damage talents, and you have a couple options for utility talents. But the two damage talents and the one I'm going to cover tonight is Berserk. And basically what Berserk is doing is as your armor comes off, you get additional damage, weapon damage, flat weapon damage. You can see I have a bunch of other Berserk chests in here, but I chose to run the Gila Guard chest because it had quite a bit of health, quite a bit of armor. Gila gives you 5% more total armor, which is great. And it has a whole bunch of slots, including an offensive system mod slot for weapons. Those are very important in any build, and I would argue that, when you think about looking to put a build together, one of the most important things is getting a whole bunch of offensive system slots. Now, next week, this video is going to be somewhat invalid because they're getting rid of the difference between system and protocol mods. So you'll be able to run a system mod in every one of the red ones. But for right now, for this week, protocol mods have a lot less value because you just don't get as much weapon damage on it. So you can see here, I was really going for the assault rifle damage on this. I could care less about my pistol damage, but you'll see some of my other ones. I have SMG damage on them. I wanted something that had a bunch of assault rifle damage, so that's why that's in there. And again, the Gila Guard, the 5% armor is valuable, so that's why I chose that particular one. Questions about that one, Negan?
No, I was going to say, just going back to the system protocol, the big difference between those two is you get specific weapon damage on the system protocols. You don't get just all weapon damage. You get AR damage or SMG damage, whereas the protocols, you only get like crit hit damage. Is that correct?
The protocols, you'll get a flat...
on protocols.
You'll never get AR damage on protocol mods. You get a flat damage bonus on both of them. Right, so it'd be like 1% weapon damage or 2% weapon damage or whatever. And then you're going to get, on the system mods, you're going to get specific weapon damage. So the highest, I think, is 6. So you can get like a 6%. I have a 6% on something. I think it's LMG damage. But it does have a stat economy. Just like the gear has a stat economy, it has a stat economy. So if you were to find one with like a 6% assault rifle on it, it's going to have a very low second damage for the other weapon, and it's also going to have a very low general weapon damage. Does that make sense?
Does.
The protocols are going to have...
Since this is for the casual
Yep.
gamers, stat economy means what again?
All the stats on it add up to something, and there's a maximum for that. So,
Right.
I don't know what the stat economy, I think, for a mod might be 10 points. So it's all got to break down into 10. So if you have 6, you only have 4 points left, and it's going to break them up between the other two things. Does that make sense?
No, that's exactly what I was looking
Yeah.
for.
Okay.
So again,
Okay.
the more
Perfect.
basically the more stats you have, the lower each stat range can be, is what happens. Because if you have
Correct.
4, that's basically around
Correct.
4. If you have 5, that type of thing. So that's also when you're looking for protocols. Even on, it's also the same thing on gear. This economy exists on gear, which is why you start talking
Hmm.
about, oh, I have 4 stats, but some of them are going to look lower than something that only has 2 stats that with talents and stuff. So that's some trade-offs that you have to keep in mind as well. So,
Correct.
right.
Very much. Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
back to your
And
back to your chest. What are you doing there? Your mods and stuff.
w- well, yeah. So I did, like I said, I've got a high health roll on the protocol mod. Protocol mods for defense have health. System mods have armor. And then I was looking for a good total armor roll, right? So I have a 3% total armor roll on this particular defensive system slot mod.
So
And then again,
overall,
that weapon.
as you're doing this, you're bouncing. You're kind of talking about health and armor and stuff like that. What's the end goal as you're putting this together? Is your end goal high armor and low health? Is it low health or high health, low armor? Because it's Berserk, I'm going to make an assumption here that you're shooting for a little bit better armor and you're sacrificing a little bit on health as you go through these pieces, as you're making your decision.
Actually, the opposite.
Okay.
I'm trying to have I'm trying to have a decent health
That's
pool
not allowed.
because
You can't
Berserk
contradict. No.
Berserk like Berserk is at its best when you're out of armor. So you need to
Okay.
survive for a little bit on just health, right? Now this isn't ridiculously high health. You know, I have several other Berserk builds that have north of 100,000 health. But because again, my playstyle in general is to sit back, the synergy I'm actually looking for in this build is one in which I press forward into close cover. And if we get to some playtime here, I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to push forward into a close cover position, and then I'm going to pop up and I'm going to trade, and I'm going to sort of face trade from cover, and I'm going to let my armor get, chewed up a little bit, and that's going to bump my damage. But I'm also by the time that's happened, because I have patience on my knees, I'm able to, if I get close to getting killed, stop face trading over the top of cover and duck down and start to regen my health and armor. So I'm basically going to go back and forth between having armor and not having armor based on the patience on my knee pads. That's the theoretical plan of the build. Versus a clutch build where you would literally go face tank, using clutch and strain to refill your health as you go. I'm going to use the cover mechanic of the game and patience to gain my health and armor back, if that makes sense.
It absolutely does. And you'll be talking about patience here in just
That,
a sec, so I won't ask you anything about that yet.
okay. So then moving on to the holster. So holsters, ton of holsters, right? Like there's a ton of options in the holster slot. You tend to be looking for ones that have, in this case, a single stat roll. The reason why is the holster is the best place to pick up crit chance in a single spot. You know, again, like your mask is a great spot to pick up DTE. The holster is a great spot to pick up crit chance. 15% is the max roll here. And I picked a Richter and Kaiser holster in this particular case. I could pick a bunch of different ones. Again, I could go Wyvern, I could go D&H. These have, really cool first set, like single set bonuses, 7% crit hit damage. That'd be super valuable, right? D&H, getting some extra accuracy, especially on the console, super, super strong. But you'll notice I chose the Richter and Kaiser, and I chose that for a very specific reason. I chose it because it has an offensive system mod slot in it. And because my plan is to use this build in the raid, I want some extra hazard protection. Hazard protection is very valuable, apparently, in the raid. I've only run little tiny bits of it. I think Negan's run bits of it. But, we've never done the whole raid. That's how, like we said, we're casuals. We have not finished the raid in any way, shape, or form. But know that that's valuable. So I chose it basically for the offensive system slot. And you can see here I've got a bunch of assault rifle damage stacked here as well. That one makes sense? Oh, devastating. Yeah, devastating. All
So,
weapon
so
damage
the devastating
is
talent.
what?
What's this devastating talent you were just looking at right there? Go ahead, go with that one.
Yeah, devastating is 5% all weapon damage. And so when you think about what you could possibly put on your build in you see I have a ton of devastating. Um, it's a very strong talent to put on. And devastating, you can only get it on the holster, and you can only get like holster and gloves are your only two slots where you can pick it up. And so I think it's exceptionally valuable. And then the other talent you see in here that I do have a few of in here is Filler Up, which I use on LMG builds because it's nice to not have to reload something like an M60. But Devastating is definitely my preference, and one of these weeks when we decide to do a build, I'll cover an LMG build. You'll see it'll probably have Filler Up on it. So on the backpack, moving on to the backpack. Now I had two backpack options here. Negan's gonna kill me because I switched my backpack today, and this is where I'm going to talk about cool trades, right? So in this particular case, I have a 511 backpack, and I'll be honest, the 511 backpack single stat talent sucks. 5% protection from elites sucks. You can pick up more than 5% protection from elites on a protocol mod as a secondary stat. So it's a garbage stat. But I particularly put this one in because it had hardened and because it had damage to elites on it, and it had a little bit of cooldown reduction. So previous to today, I was running a Badger Tough. I love Badger Tough. Badger Tough doesn't get enough play. Badger Tough never has a I don't know, what are we calling these? Talent. Never has a talent. Yeah. But you can see here on this Badger Tough that I had in there that I was getting 9% total armor. Well, if you look at what hardened is, it's 10% total armor. And it had an armor roll in it. You can see that boosts my armor up a little bit. And it had an offensive system slot, which was great. And its first stat is 7% damage to elites. So when you look at this one here, hard hitting is 10% damage to elites, right? So this backpack and this backpack are actually very similar to each other in terms of what they are. And so the trade here on the Badger Tough is basically I lost a little bit of armor but picked up 3% more DTE. Now, why did I make that choice today? I don't know. Just cause. Just cause I was messing around with it and testing it out. And seeing which I liked better. The thing I did figure out is I do like the 11% cooldown reduction. That is valuable in terms of popping heals. But I can switch these two in and out as I see fit. So, it's one of those things. My big shout out here though is to Badger Tough, because you'll pick up a lot of Badger Tough stuff, and it's great because it just has so many stats on it. And so if you're putting together like a 577 build or a 377 build, or you're just looking for something, never underestimate the Badger Tough. And that 7% damage to elites is almost as good as hard hitting. And so, it's a wise choice for a single slot piece. You can get it on the mask, the gloves, or the backpack are where they are available. Yep, I think that's what I wanted to say about that. Questions on that one, Negan?
No, you answered my real question, was why you switched off the Badger Tough. I was looking forward to it tonight. That's fine. It's fine. You're allowed to do that. It's half the fun.
I was just playing around. I'm just playing around. I got this backpack today, and I was like, I'm going to give that a roll. But I don't like 511 in general because none of its brand set bonuses, I think, are anything worth much of anything. They're actually, with the exception of the weapon handling, they are all things that you can get on mods. Literally. You can get more from a stat economy standpoint. It's a waste. But, I figured I'd give it a roll. So gloves. Again, you'll see devastating.
That also goes back to what we were talking about, as long as everything else. The fact that, A, this is very complicated. game with all their little stats and their rolls and all
Yeah.
that stuff. But B, you can one day be running with a 511 for whatever reason. Next day you can be running Badger Tough. So those are trade-offs that you're making. And at least
Yep.
we're here to help you at least identify, oh, well, this is going to be fun for this one or this fun for that reason. So don't get stuck in the it has to be this every time or it has to be that every time. There's always a flexibility with the different backpacks and talents and stuff across the board, all the different gear.
Right. Absolutely. You know, and I think this is the great thing about the Badger Tough. I will say this too, is because you get a lot of them. I mean, they drop a lot, and I think you've experienced that too, Negan. It tends to be a set, especially that I don't care what they say about this game, but it does seem to me that certain activities have a higher percentage of certain things, right? And running missions and running world crates and undergrounds and stuff like that, I get a lot of this stuff. When we go do heroic bounties or we go do, some of the more tough stuff, I get a lot more of other things, right? So if you're, casual and you're just, maybe you're playing the daily challenge missions and you're just, you're farming crates out in the wild, you're probably going to pick up a lot of this. When we go to the DZ, I get a whole different suite of loot. And so if you're not doing a lot of DZ, you might be seeing more Badger Tough. It's it's a good set. People would not tell you that, and I don't think I've ever seen any of the big streamers be like, "Hey man, you got to get some Badger Tough in your build." But it's a great utility player if you think of it that way. If I got another one of these that had some health on it, maybe it had like 9% total armor and 13,000 armor, and then maybe it had, 16,000 health instead of that crit hit chance, which 3.5% is low. Um, I would totally rock that backpack over the 511 all day long. I could also theoretically get a Badger Tough with, um, cooldown reduction on it, and then I would probably go back to the Badger Tough too. The one thing you have to watch with them though is unlike a lot of the other backpacks that, depending on the brand and type of backpack, you always get the same slot mods. Badger Toughs can roll the same backpack, like this Roamer Pack SOW, can roll with any of the 3 system mods in it. So you definitely want the only to ever run one that has an offensive system mod slot. I probably trash 6 of these for every one I keep because most of them will have the defense or the utility slot in them, and I don't want that. I want offensive. So, thing to think about there. Gloves, I'm running Providence Defense for no reason, just because these are the gloves I got that had both a high SMG roll and I was able to roll a good assault rifle damage roll onto them. Because 10% skill power when you have 0 skill power is 10% of nothing. But
so why are you worried about your AR damage versus if you built this around an SMG? Why did you care about the 10% AR damage versus more a higher SMD damage? I mean, that's not horrible. What you're looking at right there isn't bad, but
no, and that's why. Because when I got a pair that had like this pair of gloves when they dropped had 3% AR, 7% SMG. Now I have pairs of 12% SMG gloves. I have a pair of, I think, 14% SMG damage gloves with devastating on them. But they don't have any AR damage because they're a single stat glove. You're only going to see those high. So just so you know, stat economy wise here, being real with you, if you have 2 stats on your gloves, meaning like this one, which is part of a 577 build, the max you can put on it is 11%. So don't burn, if you get a pair of 14 or 12 or 13% damage gloves, don't burn them into a 2-stat glove. A lot of people, PvPers especially, who do a lot of YouTubing, are going to tell you run a single stat glove because they're trying to push every last ounce of damage out of the one weapon they're going to use to kill people. But in PvE, where we spend more of our time, the double stat glove like this is going to give you more utility because you're going to be able to get 10% assault rifle damage, for example, and 7% SMG damage versus getting 13% assault rifle damage and nothing else. So, highly recommend the 2-stat glove if you're going to do PvE, primarily PvE. And I always typically prioritize the assault rifle because they're good killing machines. That makes sense?
It does. It does.
As to why it's Providence, because it dropped with devastating in 2 stats.
Right.
Final
well, that makes
piece.
sense, 'cause Devastating's across the board. All your weapons get the boost from
Right.
Devastating, so that makes
Everything
sense why
gets the
you're looking for
5%.
that.
Yep.
Sometimes you sacrifice the
final-
cool talent on the gear set for the cool talent on
Yeah.
the particular glove you find.
Now, see, what I would love to have found, and see, this is, again, what I would love in this particular build would be to have a pair of Araldis that had the damage on them. Because at least then I get some accuracy, for example, out of it. But Araldis don't roll with 2 stats, so that's never going to happen. So you got all these different options, and I've got, I keep a set of like these I found today, and I've just got them sitting here because they got rifle damage on them, and I'll probably roll the LMG damage to assault rifle or something. But anytime I find devastating, I keep it on anything for at least a little while to give it a thought process, because devastating's so powerful. Final piece here, we got Fenris knee pads. Why did I choose to go with Fenris in the knees instead of the chest? Most YouTubers would tell you go Fenris in the chest. I went Fenris on the knee pads because I'm picking up patience and hard hitting. And I rolled this 12% armor onto them, which is better than hardened. So in essence, it's almost like having 3 talents on one piece of gear. And here's where I'm picking up my 10% assault rifle damage is coming off these Fenris pads. So again, it's pretty simple. Patience, when you get in cover, it's going to repair your armor, and then it'll allow your health to recover. Almost always want hard hitting on as many pieces as you can get. So you can see here I've got it on 3, so that's going to be 30% DT by itself. Then I've got my 41, so when we look at my stats here, should add up to 71%. 71% damage to elites, which is, pretty good DTE. You'll see how this all plays out for me. I've got, this critical hit chance on my SMG. I'm at 46.5. Don't have a lot of critical hit damage. I do have 34% all weapon damage and 32% assault rifle and 35% SMG. So I'm picking up almost 70% damage on my SMG as it stands. I am running a demolitionist. I main a demolitionist, and then I got that DTE. So why don't we, unless you've got any other questions, Negan, why don't we run down and show them how this thing plays in the shooting range. What do you think?
Head there. Yeah, do that. So just for fast, go back over again. So you're running the Berserk chest because as you lose your armor, you gain more weapon damage, but you play in cover with the Ranger stats on your weapons, because when you're in cover, that's when your patience kicks in. So you get hit by Berserk, you lose your armor. If you lose too much and too much health, you sit there in cover by itself just to get everything back. So that's why you can you're not face tanking in this. You're not running up to people. You're not just sitting there out in the wide open shooting people. Everything you're doing in this particular build is from cover.
Typically speaking, but I do play close cover, so I will face tank into cover is basically what I'm doing. So instead of standing out in the open, I get real nice and cozy in cover. Now, Ranger, though, it's important to remember that Ranger is adding damage immediately to a weapon. Not a ton, but you're getting 2% damage for every 5 meters away they are. So at 10 meters, you've got 4% damage kicking in. I believe that's, let me make sure I read that right, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. For every 5 meters you are, it gets you 2%. Yep. So at 10 meters out, you're picking up 4% damage. So when you think about, close and personal gives you 50% damage if you get a kill within 7 meters. That's huge, right? But if it's not working, it's not working. So what am I going to do with that? Strained would be the other thing I would run here. You could totally run Strained on this build. I just chose in this particular case to run Ranger because typically speaking, I'm even engaging with my SMG at 15 to 20 meters. So 8% weapon damage. And
But
again, it's
strained
picking that up. Strained
doesn't
requires you to be
doesn't
dying,
strange
basically.
dying, and isn't it a crit hit damage? It's not an overall
It's
damage. It's a
just crit hit damage.
plus.
Nope.
So you'd have to
Right.
redo
So
everything you talked about into crit hit chance, because you want a pretty high
Right.
crit hit chance for that in that aspect. So that's the trade-off
Although
there. You
my
want to do
my
strain.
SMG has 46%, which wouldn't be bad,
Okay.
right? So that
In
wouldn't be
theory,
terrible.
every 2 rounds. Okay. All
Right.
right. Let's see how this plays. Let's see what you can do here.
Okay.
And this is with
This is with my AR right now. Yeah.
and again, at the same time, when you're shooting this in the range, Berserk doesn't proc because you're not getting shot by anything, obviously.
No, I'm not getting shot. I'm not hurting at all. No.
Right. So this is an ideal situation. So that's the other thing. With the shooting range, it's good to get in there and get the general a good basis for what you're looking for. It's actually on the real world when you're shooting things and getting shot that you'll see a proc up, because like in this one, 1,000,000's not bad, but you start getting, you know, the berserk percentage, you're going to start getting more damage out there as well. So
Right. If I take any damage, I'm gonna be like, if I'm missing, we're gonna be, you know, well into the 1 range. I've not found a reliable way to do that in here. I usually tend to grenade myself to death accidentally.
yeah,
Which of course is not.
your health and armor comes out pretty damn fast inside the shooting range. They don't let it sit out there.
No, and so then you're automatic. You know, you keep having to throw grenades at yourself. Eventually, it tends to be like one of them eventually kills you, and then you're dead. Which is super awkward when you die in the shooting.
It is. And there's nobody there to heal you back up. It's kind of embarrassing. And also the other side of this is, since we're console players, is a lot of the big quote YouTubers and stuff like that, a lot of their builds are PC based. So PC based players
Right.
have an advantage. And everybody will look at this, whether they want to or not. Have an advantage. They can zero in on headshots and keep it locked in with their mouse and keyboard a little easier than most console players can. So a lot of the builds that we'll talk about, and you can see right now, the 1,000,000 that he's getting is actually on body shots. It's not dependent on headshots. It's actually on body shots, which is probably, there are exceptions to the rule, but most of the shots that you're landing when you're running a console are going to be some form of body shot. You can get good with headshots. That's not saying you can't, but basing your builds off headshots only, you're leaving a lot. You're gonna find yourself just, in some cases, disappointed with what your damage is because of that. Whereas if you're doing something like this, putting 1,000,000 on a body shot is still pretty good. So don't feel bad if you're only putting 1,000,000 out on body shots. So that's probably what you're going to be doing most of your work with, as far as the raids or anything else. That's where the content's going to go. Show us your SMG now. What does your SMG do?
Yeah, I will in a second. I switched, just so you know. I'm going to show you the difference with the Badger Tough backpack. So I switched to that. It's not gonna. You'll see it won't make virtually any difference.
Nice. A little bit. Give it a little bit more sustain, but not. Yeah, you're right. Not a huge difference. 1.1 versus 1.0. There's 1.2. Look at you shooting things.
Swirly on that one. Yeah. So then my SMG. Oh, I'm not gonna hit the far card with the SMG.
There are limitations.
Now
to
I'm
Ranger SMG.
Now I'm only gonna get the far. Now I'm only gonna get the far card.
There you go.
Okay. So SMG.
Well, that also again kind of displays why you chose the SMG, because there are ranges where, regardless of how good your ranger stat is, they are still going to do more work for you. So as they're across the map,
the accuracy on the SMG gets to be a problem further. So you can see I'm going to drop off a little bit on the damage. If I go far card with it, I'm still going to put up damage. It's not like I'm moving to the edge of its top.
Right. And supposedly for the raid, as long as you're putting up around 1 million or so, that's kind of what the numbers are looking for.
Yeah. Yep. There. Now see there, I got a few misses on the side. Because again, it is tough with the SMG. Now the nice thing is I can actually, the SMG will stack up nice. I just don't want to run out of ammo. And a fast-firing SMG would probably play, a little bit better for putting up DPS. That's the other reason, though, that I choose to go with something like this UMP 45, because it's a great sustained damage. 50 rounds in the magazine, it has a lot of sustained damage. I don't know why it just keeps giving me the far card.
Because you're being watched.
Right. But yeah, the sustained damage.
Which SMG are you shooting right now?
This is a UMP 45. The other, good sustained damage gun would be the T281. I think it's called the Uzi, the goofy-looking Uzi gun. Would also be an excellent choice. Yep, that's a great sustained damage gun. The AUG is a good middle ground between the two. And then you've got all your MP5 based things, or the converted SMG 9A2, which I actually prefer in this game to the MP5 or MP5 A2. I like the converted SMG 9, which if you see what, I'll run one of those real quick.
So
my only reason for not...
Here's a regular UMP just with no stats on it or anything like that. So you can see the difference that you were putting up compared to what I'm putting up. I missed, of course.
And that's with nothing on it?
That's with nothing on it.
Hey, you're putting up decent stats.
So, but you were putting up ones. So just, as you can see,
Yeah.
mine's not optimized, even tweaked at all. So that's what you can do as far as not tweaked. So there's a good difference between what you put together, even... Like you were saying, even with, well, not the farm crash, but even with minimal farming, you're not putting in farming 24/7, you're not playing the game 24/7. We have lives outside of the game. But this is
I have farming. 4 kids and a wife and a good full-time job, so...
Yeah, so that's why it's casual core, so...
There's no concept of no-lifing anything here.
Nope.
That gun will never hit the far one, but... This gun's a little bouncy, but you can see how much quicker it's putting rounds out, right? Like that gun. And that's where you're going to get your DPS from now. It has significantly lower per damage hit, and so from a sustained damage perspective, this gun is not going to crank the sustained damage out. Now, the sustained damage really comes into play with things like heavies. Like I noticed that UMP 45, for example, just tears up heavies. Where this is a cute little gun, and I love it, and it's great for like the DZ, but it does not chew up heavies the same way. If that makes sense.
Do you want to go into a challenge mission real fast and see if we can get some different NPCs just for a couple minutes? We're hitting the stopping point here in just a sec. So let's see if we can get you. You can show off kind of what you're talking about as far as heavies and stuff like that. Do we care which one it is? Which one do we want to try? Probably not the invaded one tonight.
No.
Jefferson Trade Center doesn't have some heavies in the first part of Jefferson Trade Center to challenging.
I think it does.
Shot. Let's show this off. Let's show off your build actually in gameplay. The shooting range is nice.
Okay.
I like the shooting range, but that's like ideal situations. And as we can demonstrate, although I'll let him do it this time, he does like to steal my kills when we're doing stuff. So, but he'll have to show off all his killing ability.
Oh,
right
I
now.
see how it is. I see how it is. We're gonna call me out on that. My kill steal.
There you go. There you go.
Well, I gotta maintain my stats somehow, buddy.
Exactly. That's actually, it really goes back to what we said at the first part of this. Is you're shooting a lot more than I do. So I don't even shoot. I just like hang out, have some coffee in the background, some tea. It's
That
all just
is
hang out
true.
back there.
That is true. You do that a lot, don't you? All right. What did we decide we're doing? Capital or Space HQ?
Either one. I Space HQ, whichever one has a couple of heavies at the beginning or near the beginning to kind of show off what you're talking about.
Well, I think Capital has. I believe it would be Capital would have that.
Okay. And also, like I just said, it kind of shows off also as far as how it plays in real life. Like,
Yep.
It's ideal situations, but it's really going to work for you or not until you get out and do some actual content, end game or otherwise. Just
That's
getting
true.
out there doing content.
That's true.
That's really what all this comes down to, is putting builds together that you enjoy and that are fun. And we're hoping to show you a couple of those, and hopefully you'll enjoy them. But get out there and play. Don't just hang around the shooting range.
The briefcase President Ellis was carrying aboard Air
Shoot
Force
things. Shoot the bad
Ellis was
guys.
waiting aboard a helicopter to extract you most of the way. As you move fast. If what Ellis told us is true.
You already started.
All right. So you need to get in here and start to shoot some stuff because I can't kill steal what you're not shooting.
That's right. Here I go. That'll keep my UMP units. Actually, more people should drop under you either way. So, and again, so you have your berserker patients. This one's hard to do because of the numbers. But you are taking advantage of losing your armor as you do this, and then
I am
staying
losing
in
some armor.
cover when you need to.
Well, I am gonna push up a little bit here.
Okay.
For the purpose that I had mentioned earlier, which is so I'm gonna push this guy. And there is an incoming mortar, which should shoot my armor up a little. He's already down. Alright, so now my armor is really down a little bit, and I'm going to churn out some significant damage. But you can see I'm in cover, and so in a split second here, patience is going to kick in. Oh, no, it's not, because I keep getting bounced off that cover.
Yeah.
But, oh, what? I
So I was just
definitely
standing
can't
there. I was
kill
watching
steal
it.
you when you're down.
Yeah.
Agent killed.
That's right.
Well, that's not going to work.
So I was doing something in the background, but you were actually. Those guys were going down relatively quickly. That's a good spot just to
They
show
did.
what happens if you don't pay that much attention to your buddy, which I wasn't. I wasn't helping him out at all, so he was doing all that by himself. So let's see if I can help you out a little bit. Let's see if I can do better.
Well, again, I'm gonna push forward a little bit. This is really challenging till we get that mortar to stop firing at us. So maybe we should just focus on getting past the mortar fire, because hard to stay in cover when you're constantly getting bounced. But that guy's a good example. Face tank in. Face tank this guy. Alright, so somebody's got a nasty,
I just did that.
that gun is unpleasant. They really did a good job with the bleeding animation in this one being very bothersome, right? Like when you get that red across your screen, it's very, very unpleasant when you're bleeding.
Oh, we got a medic posse. We also happened last time.
So you'll see I can't exactly face trade this guy because he will tear me up at some point, but I can get him pretty quickly. So not like a clutch build, I can't just stand out in the open and face trade or pull health off of him. Patience starts kicked in, so now you'll see my patience starts to pick me up. But I'm still partially now. See, when they bounce you off of it, though, patience goes away right away. So you have to remember that. Like the second you're off cover, patience resets. And you have to start all over again, waiting for it to kick in. Oh, you know what, Negan? Something I was going to mention relative to the stat economy thing. So basically, you're going to farm all the gear you want for your build, and then you're going to farm a bunch of other gear to roll those high stat rolls onto it, and you're going to get those high stat roll talents. Confidence gear, you're going to get it rolling off of Araldi, and you're going to get it rolling off of Alp Summit gear because they have less stats, and so you get higher rolls on them. So you always want to look at the purple stuff on the ground, because the purple stuff from any of those brands frequently is where I'm picking up my high stat roll talents from. So like those 10, 12, 13, 14% weapon damage rolls and 9, 10% weapon damage rolls on my backpack are almost all coming off of purple Alp Summit or Providence Defense or Araldi gear.
It's a heavy LMG to your left over there. You want to show off what you can do on that guy? Because I just spent a couple minutes shooting at him and his armor didn't move for me.
I just gotta figure out where he's going. This guy?
Yeah, that guy up there.
Oh, that guy. Okay. Yep, I'll go chew him up.
Was
Yep,
that one
shoot
clip?
him up.
Was that one magazine? Did you have to reload?
Yes, that was one mag. Nope.
Okay.
That
So
was
if I
that
run
was
a
about
comparison-
half a mag too. It wasn't.
Nice. Because I probably unloaded about half a mag from my AR towards him. And you saw how much armor you still have in the gun. So, clearly have yours set up correctly as far as that damage goes. Demonstration purposes.
That was the last of them.
Look at that.
All right.
A lot of work.
Clear approach to the entrance.
Oh, there you go.
So with
It's time
that,
to get in there and finish this.
yep. So you see, I'm checking all these purples. Nothing good, but I'm always checking them. Want to make sure. So. And with that, I think we've showed off enough. What do you think? Good.
I think we did. So just
All
to
right.
recap one more time.
Save something for next week. Yep. Yep.
That's right. So the idea originally was, because you didn't have a build for it, you decided to run an SMG build. And so obviously you chose your SMG of choice. You like the Ranger on it because you are not necessarily face tanking with the SMG. You are getting closer, but it does give you options as far as how far you can engage the enemies with. So every 5 meters you pick up a little damage as far as that goes. On your gear itself,
Or I
you did-
I mean, again, or I'll use strained. You know, I have both. So I swap in and out as I see fit. Yeah. Like
Sure.
you see, here's a really good strained one. Yep.
but this particular one you were running with Ranger.
Ranger.
So-
Yep.
Yep.
Because it does
Um,
churn out some good damage. Yep.
Yep, it does, as was demonstrated a second ago before we, after we both went down. So then on top of that, you went with the Berserk chest. Again, as you lose armor in there, you begin to pick up more damage, weapon damage from losing your armor. As a backup to that, you went with Patience on your knee pads for that specific reason, that as you get to a certain point where you're getting hurt and your health is getting really low, you can stop shooting, you can take a break, and Patience then starts building back up your health and stuff like that for you. So they all kind of work
Correct.
together. You're not face tanking. You're getting close, but you're not face tanking. you're staying in cover, you're engaging from cover, and that allows the berserk to get hit, you lose your armor, and it allows patience to work to your advantage as well. On top
Correct.
of those things, since you were running an AR as the backup, you were looking for SMD damage where you could, from Sokolov, etc. But you also had some damage rolled into your AR, again, to back up your SMG. You're using SMG as your primary weapon, but there are times at certain ranges the SMG just becomes relatively pointless. So you did roll some damage into your ARs, so you have some backup damage as well as far as that goes. Now
Correct.
I think we're good.
Yep.
Now I think we got everything, went over everything one more time. And now I think we're good for the week. Gotta leave stuff for next week. Like you
Okay.
said.
Yep. Sounds good. So thank you guys. Thank everyone for tuning in tonight, and we'll get this somehow up on our DZPD YouTube channel or something, in case you missed it. And thank you for stopping by, and hopefully you can stop by again next week. Appreciate
Thanks, everybody.
you listen. Thank you.
See ya.